Welcome to True Scary Stories Told to the Sound of Rain. Tonight's story is about a mysterious night in the woods, where strange whispers and footsteps turn a peaceful camping trip into a nightmare. If you enjoy chilling tales, don't forget to subscribe. Now, relax, enjoy the rain, and have a spooky listening experience. It all started a few years ago when I decided to go on a solo camping trip in the woods not far from my home. The forest always seemed peaceful, a perfect escape from the chaos of the city. That night, I had planned to stay in a tent, and the light rain that began just before sunset only added to the atmosphere. The gentle patter of raindrops on the tent created a rhythm that was meant to lull me into sleep. I started a small fire, sat down, and relaxed in my sleeping bag, listening to the rain. But sometime in the middle of the night, I noticed something strange. There was a rustling sound, faint at first, coming from just outside my tent. Initially, I thought it was the wind or some small animal moving through the underbrush, but the noise became more pronounced, more deliberate. I turned off my flashlight, trying not to draw attention to myself, and listened closely. The forest around me had grown eerily quiet, except for the sound of the rain. My heart began to race, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was nearby. I lay still, my senses heightened, trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination. But then, I heard it again, the sound of footsteps. They were slow, cautious, and they were getting closer. I tightened my grip on the flashlight, but didn't dare turn it back on. I didn't want to attract whatever was out there. I could hear the footsteps now, unmistakable, crunching softly through the wet leaves. They seemed to be circling my tent, coming from one side, then the other, as if someone or something was deliberately stalking me. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. The footsteps stopped. The only sound left was the rain tapping on the tent. Just as I started to breathe again, telling myself that it was over, I heard it, a whisper, faint, barely audible over the rain, but it was unmistakable. "Help me!" I froze. My heart skipped a beat, and I lay there motionless, trying to make sense of what I had just heard. The voice was soft, pleading. Was it real? Or was it the wind playing tricks in my mind? I strained to listen, but there was nothing for a moment, just the rain. Then it came again, closer this time, and more distinct. "Help me, please." It was a whisper, but it felt as though it was right behind me, just on the other side of the tent fabric. My body tensed. I was no longer sure what was out there, but every instinct told me not to move. I couldn't ignore it any longer. Slowly, I unzipped the tent flap just enough to peek outside, my heart pounding in my chest. The rain was falling harder now, making it difficult to see, but I swept my flashlight across the trees. There was nothing, only shadows dancing between the raindrops. For a few moments, everything was still. I considered the possibility that it had been all in my head. Perhaps the isolation and the darkness were playing tricks on me. But as I zipped the tent back up and lay down again, I heard it once more. This time, the whisper was right outside. "Save me." It sent a chill down my spine. The voice was no longer distant, no longer soft. It was desperate, pleading, and it felt as if it was coming from just inches away. My hands trembled as I clutched the flashlight. I didn't dare open the tent again. I lay there, paralyzed by fear, listening as the rain beat down relentlessly. The whispering continued. Every few minutes, the voice would call out, each time growing more urgent. And then, after what felt like an eternity, I heard footsteps again, this time moving away from the tent, fading into the distance. My fear didn't ease. I lay awake the rest of the night, unable to sleep, waiting for the sound to return, but it didn't. The next morning, when the rain finally let up, I packed my things and left as quickly as I could. I felt as though something had been watching me the entire time, something that I couldn't explain. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something terrible. A few days later, I heard a story on the news. A young woman had gone missing in the same woods where I had camped. Her friends said she had gone hiking alone and hadn't returned. Search teams combed the area for weeks but found no trace of her. except for some personal items left behind near the trail. Among those items was a notebook. In it, she had written about hearing whispers in the night. She had heard the same voice, the same desperate plea for help.